Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Inhumans. Another great episode, a great finale in general. I really love what they did with this episode, obviously picking up right where last week's episode left off with the whole Maximus being like, hey, you kill me, you're basically dooming Adelan because the barrier will fall, and basically the city will be reduced to rubble and be sucked away basically by the moon, because that's the only thing keeping the city intact. So I don't know, it's a very interesting situation of trying to reach out to Maximus on multiple levels. Obviously you have Bolt trying to do it, and you have Medusa. Bolt trying, it kind of seems like we kind of find like the root of more of Maximus's hate towards his brother, because it's like you took the kingdom away from me. You said you didn't even want to be king, but then you decide, no, I'm gonna take it. And on top of that, it's like for him the biggest insult is because it's like the fact is that Bolt's also currently saying like he needed to take up the spot, not that he wanted to. And it's like, what do you mean? It seems like because of being king, there's a lot, you're privy to a lot of information not everyone else is. Because apparently he alludes to the fact is that there's something else out there. That basically the barrier on Adelan wasn't just to protect them from humans, but something or someone else. That there is another enemy out there, more troublesome than humans. Like, I think they kept their distance from humans just because that's the way they've always lived, but it was also to protect them from whatever else is out there. And it seems like he's the only one that knew. Maybe Triton too. That's why I'm curious, why is Triton the one that knows above everyone else, even Medusa? But I guess that's because Triton's like one of his greatest warriors, I'd assume. Once again, just showing off his moves this episode while Bolt got away with Maximus. He was handling business. It's like, holy crap. I mean, it's like, why didn't he fight? I guess the whole point was never to fight back in the first episode. I guess it's also, but still, I guess they're not weapons he was necessarily trained to be against. So maybe there's such a foreign thing. It's like hard to fight something you're not used to. Whereas like on Adelan, you've been here, you've grown up here your entire life. You're used to these weapons. You've done training. So it's like, they're no problem for you. But nevertheless, because the crazy thing about it, and I thought it was kind of an interesting thing about like showing you just how far Maximus is willing to go, that the fact of the matter is he can't fix this situation. Because even Karnak points it out, it's like, the fact of the matter is, Maximus is not some like mechanical genius. He fiddled with the system. He has no idea what he believes he can fix it back at any time. That's why he's like, if I don't activate it in an hour, we're all doomed. He does some stuff, but that doesn't fix the problem, because it's a situation that's constantly degrading because he doesn't know how to properly fix it back. So it was something beyond his own. I mean, he acts like it was okay. Even people like Auron still wanting on some belief to believe that he had everyone's best intentions in mind. But Medusa confronts him, and he's basically talks about how she abandoned him. That the fact of the matter is, amongst anyone, she was the only one that was his friend, the only person he could rely on, and she left him behind. So what he did to her, cutting off her hair like that, was also to make her understand, it's like, oh, now you feel like me, because without her hair, she's no different from anyone, to him in particular. So you're just like any human. So it's just kind of a final insult to injury, I think, at that time. Because it's like, you left me feeling alone, and now I made you feel alone to a certain degree, because you would never be. I mean, because we don't know exactly how her whole situation works. Like, is it like a once in a lifetime thing? Because the moment she became an Inhuman, her hair was everything. Like, will it ever grow back? Will she ever be, that's something that crosses your mind. It's something I never thought about till now. I don't know why I didn't. Like, could she ever, like, is her hair gone forever? So is that side for being an Inhuman, or her human abilities gone forever? Because like I said, her hair was more of a living entity. So now that it's gone, is it permanently dead? Even if her hair grows back, could her hair even grow back? Like, so many questions on that regard. But she wanted to give Maximus that chance. It's like, the fact of the matter is, you want to be king so bad, but a king would not be so selfish as to put his own city in danger. If you really cared about the city, you wouldn't be doing this. But for him, he didn't care. He's almost like a kid. He's very similar to like a kid who's throwing a tantrum. That's what this kind of whole situation has been. And yes, like I said, there was moments where I'm like, yes, you can understand why he's trying to change things. It's something that even they recognize later on, the royal family being like, yeah, things can't stay the way that they've been. So in a way, Maximus helped, but at the same time, it's just like he went about it the wrong reasons. This whole rebellion, this whole coup, this whole resistance was for his own selfish reasons of eventually becoming an Inhuman, which later on, like, Gorgon ends up killing Declan. So I guess that really wouldn't have worked out anyway. I was really expecting him to possibly become an Inhuman, or I would have been curious to see what would have happened, especially since we saw what happened to Gorgon this episode. That being, it kind of drove him insane. Like, he has to fight that anger, that rage inside of him, and it kind of manifested itself. It doesn't even seem like the Gorgon that we've come to know so far. Like, it's like night and day in comparing them, you know? So, to the point, it almost seems like he can't distinguish enemy from foe or friend from foe. I mean, I said that wrong. Can't distinguish friend from enemy is what it was basically what I was trying to say, but I did it terribly. I apologize. Because Maximus wouldn't even back down from the throne. Like, Medusa was offering him what he wanted. A Terrigen crystal. Here you go. You can have your chance at a second Terrigenesis. Just back down from the throne and try it, and let's help our people. But for him, it's like, no, this is what I want, and give it to me now. Then I'll help everyone. And for her, it cemented everything. It was like, there's no changing you. Even at the end, you claim yourself to be a king, and you act this way. And she broke the crystal. So, like I said, I was kind of expecting him to go through Terrigenesis. I would have been interested to see what would have happened. Would he have actually gotten ability, or would it have still kind of screwed him over and left him as human? Because it was like, in the grand scheme of things, maybe this is how he was always meant to be. That maybe in some grand destiny that the brothers were always meant to be at war, and this was just a means of inciting that war. I don't know. But to the point, like, the royal family's trying to get everybody off the moon and try to get them to Earth. Because you have, like, Medusa setting up the whole Luis situation where it's like, I end up having to... Her boss, who works for someone else, which we never got to find out who the boss was. They just referred to the person as the boss. But I love the fact is that the way you break that to someone is like, oh yeah, and here's Lockjaw. It's like, oh, okay, I'll get on a phone immediately. But it's like, who else knows about this? No one knows. Okay, because the boss is going to want exclusive rights to this whole situation, which is like, okay, so the boss is obviously connected because this is like, they work on like an aerospace like situation. Because going back to it, it seems like this isn't like some necessarily a government funded thing. This seems like it's like a private funded thing. So the fact that they went out of their way not to show who the boss was makes me think that's going to be like a big reveal that might turn into something more possibly in the future. But I'll kind of get into all that maybe later on. But the point I was making is while everyone was, while the royal family was warning everyone about what was going to happen to Adeline, you had like Auron being there with Maximus, and he's like, this is my kingdom, and she's like, saying that this isn't just about him, that this is about their people. But for him, it's like, I would rather it burn before I let anyone take. And I was curious, but we see her at the end of the episode. So Auron ended up leaving because he was like, thank you for your loyalty. And it's like, she was the only person that stuck by you from beginning to even when she had questions about your methods and your loyalty, like your true motives and everything, she stuck by him. But ultimately she realizes it's a waste because he is ultimately in it all for himself. So when it was all said and done, though, you had everyone leaving, and there was that whole situation with Karnak and Gorgon being like, where do we go from here? Does Gorgon want to die? Does he want to live? It seems like he wants to live, but that did bring up an interesting thing because for Karnak, everyone's telling him, well, what he did was wrong. It was bad. Like, he doesn't really know the consequences of what he has done. Like, what that could turn into much later on. We're seeing the beginning stages of it, but eventually it might be something that eats away at Gorgon until, like, there's nothing of him left. This is probably unprecedented territory, for anyone going through second Terrigenesis, or at the very least, it has happened in the past, but I'm sure very little knowledge is known about it, so it might be a situation where like Inhumans have gone so crazy that they had to be put down, not just for their sake, but for everyone else's sake too. So that's something, because for Karnak, it's just, he couldn't, imagine losing Gorgon because that's his family. Like, they're kind of like opposite sides of the same coin in the sense of like they kind of represent a balance to each other, him being like the smart one, but he was always too afraid to make a move, whereas Gorgon's the one that's kind of quick to take action without really thinking things through. So it's like they kind of two peas in a pod type of situation. So Also, little quick side note, I do also appreciate what Medusa did for Luis. It's like Luis wanted to go to the moon, but it's like, well, this ain't really the best time to be going to the moon and everything. But she did do her a favor by bringing her dad there to the moon. And I love that line of being like, and she also asked her at the same time, like, oh, take care of these Terrigen crystals. She's like, wait, you really trusting me to do this? Like, yeah, you're my most trusted friend. And you have Crystal interrupting me like, well, you are, well, kind of her. She doesn't have many friends. It's like, why you have to ruin this sweet moment, Crystal? But it's kind of true, but still, I mean, we don't really actually like much like Crystal. Like Medusa didn't really have anyone to really talk to aside from Bolt and her family, so that was just kind of an interesting thing. But that was kind of nice. Like put a little burial place of rocks and left the his ashes, obviously still in that kind of spaceship thing, and left it there. So I mean, it's obviously it's a beautiful sentiment, but also at the same time, part of me wonders, will that be something? Probably most likely not, but just, you never know with these type of things. Like shows have a tendency to make even something that seems the most insignificant thing possibly be something very significant later on. But I like how they concluded everything with this whole situation of it being Bolt as well as Maximus being the only ones left on Adeline, because Bolt was like, I have to be the one to handle this situation. So he has to make sure that Maximus is taken care of. So I was like, does that mean killing him? But then it came down to that conversation, because like he kept making it seem like, oh, Bolt has lived all these years with the guilt of killing his parents, and now we finally understand, because like there was that episode where Maximus was dreaming. He's like, oh, his family confronted him about it. It's like, wait, so you're responsible for it? And it turns out the reason is because he was so pissed at his brother. It's like he was the special one, that he ended up falsifying a report and made it seem like his parents were okay with experimenting on, Black Bolt, just because he's like the most powerful of all Inhumans and everything with his ability. And Black Bolt being so upset during, like, he ended up speaking, like, he didn't really fully understand, it was just a moment of rage because he thought his parents were going to experiment on him, and he ended up killing them. Which, Maximus is like, well, he expected Black Bolt just to run away to Earth and never be heard of again, But he almost makes it seem like it wasn't 100% his fault, but he was almost like, go ahead and kill me for it. And it's just like, this entire time that was the debate, will Bolt do it? Will he kill his brother? Turns out not to be that case. He knocks him out and then locks him up in the bunker because there's enough food for him there to survive. But it's more like, rather than kill you, I'm going to leave you in this prison. And it's something that the Inhuman who can see the future to a certain degree, the moment he said, you will be the king of Adelan and Black Bolt will be gone, the moment he said that, I was like, yeah, because Maximus is going to be the last one on Adelan when it's destroyed. Wasn't expecting him to be in a bunker or anything like that. Didn't even think about that. I was like, he's going to be the king of Adelan. There's no, essentially there's no fighting. I was like, because he'd be the last one there. And so it did come true. Renage is his name. Because to him, like, he early on saw through, like, Maximus, so he ended up telling him what he wanted to hear, which it did turn out to be true, but it was just like, you can definitely tell he left out some details, so. Because it was Maximus's punishment for all he's done. Like, that bunker will survive Adelin's destruction, but still. And you have Bolt saying the first words he's ever said in the show, as an adult. And that was him turning towards the entrance and saying, goodbye, brother. Because for him, no matter what he's done, no matter how much hate he has towards him, that is still his brother. He deserves to be punished, and this is the right way of doing it, not killing him. Because for one, that'd also be letting him off too easy for everything that he's ever done, all the people that have died because of him. Gorgon's situation wouldn't be the way it is right now if it wasn't for him, so... and Black Bolt living that guilt about his parents, which he still holds on to, but at the same time, it's like Maximus manipulated that situation. So from the very beginning, like, his brother has schemed against him and just has been so selfish, Like I said, like a child with a tantrum, so... This kind of changes what I thought. Like I said, like I always had a feeling like just because of his character design, like I said, this is me not reading anything about Maximus, just looking at the picture of him that's like when you Google Inhumans and like the picture they use for the comic book comic book version, it's like he looks a little crazy. It's like, well, now this makes more sense. It's not just about the Terrigen crystal thing. It's about the fact is that he was isolated on the moon by himself for God knows how long, and he probably just went nuts. So... Obviously, I doubt this is the end. I'm sure there's a lot more to it, especially because when Adeline was falling, you saw the chair kind of glowing. So definitely meaning that either it was sending out a beacon or maybe that throne was helping. Adeline as general was sealing something away. Maybe it's not something from the outside, but maybe Adeline was there on top to seal something away. Once again, it's still something we never got answered, but I'm curious, like, how this all fits in with Hive, you know? Like him being kind of like the controller of all Inhumans, like, how does that apply to them? I mean, go actually think about it. Hive, it's still somewhere out there in space. Dead, sure, but still. I don't know. Probably just that you're overthinking it, most likely. So they are on Earth at the very end, so and that's where we leave everything off with them being on Earth. So kind of restarting their new life here on Earth, trying to get readjusted, you know, and obviously things for Inhumans, not necessarily easy at the current time, but they're going to have to, and especially like how will they go forward with their new experiences about handling ruling the Inhumans, like especially in this new world. It's like, where does it also put your authority as like king of any, like you being the royal family of Inhumans? Where does that put you? You from a different planet? That's a whole thing. Once again, I'm sure that boss person plays a part in this. Who that is, we still don't know. But yeah, I mean, because ahead of time, I'm kind of been avoiding talking about it, but I'll go ahead and talk about it. The end here is, we don't know. I don't know if this is getting renewed for a second season at the time of recording this. Like from the very beginning, there's been a lot against this show just because people in general didn't like it, which is like, hey, I'm not going to hold that against you. You don't like it, you don't like it. I'm not going to be like, oh, everyone should like the show. It's like, no, I like it. Maybe there's some other people who like it too, but at the end of the day, I mean, that's just me. So from the beginning, ABC wasn't even sure if they're going to even air the entire season, which wouldn't be the first time. Like there's a show I like called Time After Time. They did not air the entire series. They aired like half the season, but nevertheless, that's getting all into that. So I am very curious to see if they do get a second season for Inhumans. I'd love to see more. I'd like to see them expand upon this and see how the story continues. Also find out who this mysterious enemy is that they're running from. And does that in any shape or form tie in with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which returns on December 1st, which is like, what, 3 weeks away? Yeah, it's in 3 weeks from now. So especially because I caught the previews, in case you want to go in knowing very little, it does make the way season 5, well, not, yes, season 5. I was blanking for a second there. So what they're doing with season 5 seems very interesting. Like everything I've seen in previews so far, it looks like it's stuff specifically from that first episode, which it does seem like it's a 2-hour premiere. So I'm very interested to see like what that's all about in comparison to this. Will there be any connection? That's something I threw up last episode. Especially with what's going on in Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., you think there might be, but the way Inhumans is now, it's kind of like, well, maybe that's not, you know, maybe they're keeping a very loose connection because of the whole, like, well, there's going to be a second season or not. But I still feel like even in that regard, I feel like it's still canonical in the MCU. So I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I hope they make a second season of this, because I really do want to see the continuation of this in our characters, their experiences on Earth, like how things will go going forward, and once again whether or not this will influence season 5 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, we'll just kind of have to wait and see. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.